Hang on a sec. Good morning.
Hi.
Hello. I guess it's last night over there.
Or afternoon.
It's a pretty top that you're wearing. I love those colors.
Thank you.
Yeah, for the dragonfly.
Yeah.
I had a swarm of dragonflies in my garden yesterday. It was amazing. We have a lot of them here in Bali. I'm just going to check Facebook and see if somebody else is coming. Jill, Laura, and that's the second group, Allah. Should be three more. Oh, there's Allah. And okay, we should have another two according to the Facebook thing. I just send them a Facebook message. Who's that? Jill. Oh, I just sent her a message. And Laura is the other one. Let me try that.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, there's Laura. Great.
It's Jill.
No, I just admitted Laura. Yes, you look like Jill. Oh, there's Laura. Okay, are we all here? All that said.
Oh, I gotta get that.
1, 2, 3. I think that's our little groups. Let me just check Facebook again. That's Europe, Australia, Europe, Chilltown, or okay. We just don't have Allah's picture. That's why I'm not noticing her. Yes, there you are. Hello. So hello, everyone. This is our final little gathering. And as always, let's start with a meditation. Maybe just take a few breaths. I often say breathe yourself into yourself because you can use the breath to ground into the body. Just put breath and awareness together. And as you breathe in, it's like drinking and seeping into the field of you. And then once you're touching the inner landscape, you stop following the breath. You let the breath move through the landscape. You ground into the landscape. I always find this is a good kind of moment in the beginning as we're coming in, just to intent or remind ourselves of our alignment so that we don't go into some kind of automatic pilot, which is a very common way, habitual way of meditating. And the alignment might be something like, you know, that this is it's a sacred connection, and that we're entering a temple. And that as we walk through the hallway of the temple, we're going to the altar where we find that is in the heart. And perhaps as we journey into our temple, we see who's here to visit us. All the parts and all the pieces are welcome. Any sensations in the body, land and seep into them. It's like every place has an internet connection, you know, like a internet connection to your soul. And you have to maintain that connection by grounding in and being able to continually receive the messages. If we just, what's really common for meditation is that we notice something and then we skip to the next thing, and then we skip to the next thing. And that's a mind, that's a meditator, that's what meditators do. We're trying this embodiment process. So we never abandon any part. We're here to integrate all the parts. And as we find each part, it's nice to greet it in this friendly, with a friendly vibe, a soft smile, a hello, welcome. Thanks for being here. Let each part find its rightful place. Every part is serving you. And there's a general quality in that of really ownership. I just own myself, all of myself. And many people come into temples to pray, but real prayer is a two-way communication. It's a speaking and a listening. Invite yourself to inhabit the whole temple. Feel your awareness seeping backwards into the back body. And feeling the wholeness of the bubble of you with all the different colors and vibes that are here on your canvas. And in order to meet God, if you will, or to meet the light of your soul, it's really helpful to do this inclusion process. And in the welcoming and thanking and meeting and greeting all the different parts, a purity arrives as we move to the altar at the heart. There's no agenda. We're not coming out of our wounded self or our separate self to fix. We've met all the selves and we've included them, honored them, acknowledged them. All the wounds and all the soldiers. So you might feel yourself in this prayer, dressed in white, kneeling down in namaste, in humbleness, at the altar of your own heart. That humbleness, that kneeling down, is a giving up of any mission. We're here to meet the truth of who we are. And there's a deep sincerity in our journey here. And on the altar of our heart is a candle, the light of our own soul that shows us the way. And rather than maintain any kind of separation to that light, the God is within us. Become that light. Just put your awareness into the very core of your heart, the very center of your being. And as you arrive there, what you're arriving into is waiting for you. Just make contact. And in the same friendly acknowledgement, you can own your light. This is me. And really let that light radiate, filling the entire bubble of you up with the love that you are, with the light of your own soul. And let yourself seep into your light and your field. And if any shadows or parts are uncomfortable with the light, just give them time and space. Let them be part of this journey of union back home, without judgment, without separation. Let it all be part of your journey of discovery. And without leaving the light of your own soul, I want to invite you to feel in whatever way feels right for you, the light of all the souls that are here on this call, that each of us has our own essence and uniqueness. And we are all connected and part of the same one soul. So let's feel the one soul. So just inviting you to touch the silence that's already here, the stillness, noticing where it is in you, and seeping in to this absence of activity, this deep, empty stillness. And become aware of not just the members of this call, but also the members of our group that we've journeyed with for some time. Just recognizing this common ground that we all birth out of in every moment. And the uniqueness and sharings and gifts of each person. That as I transform myself, I'm serving not just me, but I'm also serving the group and the collective. And when it feels stable, your connection, I want to invite you just to half open your eyes, like, Buddha eyes, and just remain in your anchoring, in your connection. Noticing how it feels to be here in this group, in this dynamic, with my eyes half open, like a softness in the eyes. And as the metaphor windows to the soul goes, I invite you, when it feels right for you, to open your eyes, and rather than get pulled out of the window, out of your soul, let the windows go both ways. Let people look into your soul. Feel it that way. It's like I'm sharing myself when I do that. I'm here for me. And only when I'm here for me can I be here for you. Otherwise, it's a manipulation or a codependency. The greatest gift that we have to offer is ourself. So what would be valuable for our sharing? I'm just wondering whether just to open up the group into conversation. So we have a conversation rather than a separate sharing. Yeah, I feel that would be playful and fun and friendly. So you can all unmute yourselves. And my invitation is to endeavor as best you can to remain in your connection as you speak and listen. Like this is a meditation, this party that we're having, this conversation together. And just imagine how it would be if you and your soul lived your life in the world, sharing from your heart and listening from your heart. And this is beautiful practice to do that, where, at least all of us are in that alignment. Makes it a little easier than when somebody is totally disconnected and not in that alignment. And if you've turned your video off, Michal, just notice what that's about and what's going on inside you. Oh, okay, she's back. Missed your beautiful face. So what's valuable in this sharing is anything that you feel is relevant about your practice at the moment, the time that we've all spent together, what you've learned, how things have changed in your life. You know, I mean, I know that there's this big thing going on with everyone in the world right now. It's quite unifying in some way. But I was referring, you can share obviously about that, but in regards to how you feel that the practice has served you, how it's facilitated your life. Any questions or anything that you feel is relevant to what we've shared here as a group? So just leave it quite open. So how are you all?
I'll ask a question. You talk about, and I can't remember what you said about it, but when you get into contact with the back body, that you're getting in touch with some, I can't remember what that was about. There was some reason why you direct us there.
Yeah, so there's lots of reasons, and you'd have to continue with me to really, you know, get deeper into all those things. But the back body is a special place, and you often are unaware of the back body. That's the first reason, is, you know, that life pulls us out of ourself. You know, you might even experience this when you're in a meditation and you've entered the whole and the back body, and then you might even notice it now. Am I in my, this is an invitation for all of you, am I in my back body still? Because when I start to engage with life or with people, you know, the object out there becomes what I fixate on. Yeah. So it's like, it becomes real, you know, and there's all this, you know, spiritual knowledge that it's an illusion and all of that. But in the way that I live my life, it ain't an illusion, and it sucks me out. So as you're listening to me and sharing with me, Jill, can you feel your back body? And that's more about staying in myself. And it's also the part that's holding what's unseen.
Okay.
Yeah, which it's often the seer, the observer, you know, which in a deeper level of this work we explore, and that and we've kind of touched on it quite a bit. It's like, who's looking? Because it's kind of like there's a matrix there or a filter. And this observer called Jill, or the observer called Leonora, has, you know, a way of seeing. It has a preconceived idea about everything. Yeah, so it's not seeing cleanly. It's not seeing clearly. And if we don't even notice that it's there, you know, then we're really sucked into the drama, and we've abandoned ourselves, basically. So it's a practice.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And how are you doing, Jill? You're in Alaska, right?
No, I'm in Wisconsin.
Oh, who's in? Oh, Tal's in Alaska. Sorry, I'm muddling location.
Cold.
Cold places, yeah.
I'm doing fine. I'm doing the practices. Nothing really major has changed for me, but I am definitely more in touch with my heart, and I feel like it feels more open to me than it did when I started. I don't feel as much of a blockage there, and I don't know, I just think it's something that I just have to keep just constantly working with forever, probably.
Yes, I'm still working with it. Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, always like rolling around.
Are you guys all on lockdown?
Yeah, we are.
Mm.
I think we
That
are
must
mostly everywhere.
Yeah.
I think Texas is like until some places until May 20th and some until end of April. I don't know. They haven't decided yet.
I
Yeah.
can still go out for walks. Does everybody else get to go out for walks?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's interesting to have that be my main interaction with people so that I'm having experiences of feeling connected, and I've run into neighbors on the walk. And so there's one neighbor in particular that I've run into a few times. And by the third time, I was kind of aware of myself staying connected to myself while I was talking to him, because after the first couple of times, I kept going back to the house and being like, I totally forgot about myself in that interaction. I was just in it with him. And so I was feeling like, okay, now I'm starting to really get a foothold, and I'm starting to really dig in and be grounded. And then today I ran into a new neighbor that I haven't seen in a couple of weeks, and got back to the house and was like, God, I was so judgmental. I was so like, I totally lost myself again, and just went to this place that I always go to with that neighbor as we were talking about the school system and the government, and just got totally pulled off again. So I'm curious to see when this is all over, if I can maintain any of this, because it's been this magic little bubble around my house that has protected me from, or concentrated everything that we're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, and it's a question that I hold, like this fine line between trying to hold on to myself and trying to just keep being aware of where I am, and letting myself be where I am. And because I want to hold on to the connection to my heart and the feeling of being grounded whenever I get it. I'm like, there it is. I got to get that. Got to keep that. So that's.
I'm sure we can all relate to that. Yeah. But what is really sweet is that, you know, it is a practice. So what is really sweet is that you're practicing, and that you noticed what you did. And that's how you unwind. You don't unwind by doing it right. You unwind by doing it wrong and noticing that you did, not that there is a right or wrong, but you notice what you did. You notice what happened. And, you know, you noticed on the one example that you forgot to connect. So the next time you connected, and then you noticed on the next one that you connected with a different one, and you went into this, basically an identity that's hooked up with him, you know, about what you share about. And
yes, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
It's like, with this dude I become this person, you know, and then this drama that we do together, and that's practice. And if you go back to the, you know, I mean, it's normal for the mind to want to hold on. That's what minds do, you know. And you can, sometimes I chuckle at mine, you know, in a sweet way, not in a derogatory way. But if you go back into the daily practice guideline, that was fine-tuned by me over many, many years. And some years later, I started to see other people who'd done science on practice and realized that my practice was a super good practice. And it's still fundamentally the same for me, even though I don't do formal practice. I kind of live my practice. But the essence of practice is that you start the day with yourself, in gratitude, in the joy, in your heart, in you know, you might not be able to get there every day, so don't give yourself a hard time, but you start with that intention. And for some of you, it's really powerful to start with your prayer. You might not need a prayer, you might not want a prayer, but it's kind of like I think of it as a stick in the ground of what I'm paying attention to at the moment. You know, I might be doing it for a week or a month, you know, and I always have like a quest that's alive in me. Yeah. So, you know, and that quest might be, you know, like for me, I've been through this, you know, many lifetime healing of my jaw, and I had infection in the bone and I've cleared it. And it's taken, you know, it's not that I'm super whizzy healer, it's that to embody my jaw, it's taken me, you know, let's say lifetimes. And I feel, you know, that's been my quest and my focus for maybe 4 or 5 months. And that brought up a lot of stuff. So you can go, oh my God, I just thought I would, you know, the mind goes, I'm just going to do this 8-week thing and then I'm going to be good, you know. But, you know, embodiment is about being an embodied divinity expressing, it's the Christ consciousness, it's the second coming of Christ. I mean, it's this thing that we're all doing. And the shift that I feel that's happening on the planet right now is totally tied to, you know, the light being illuminated and the shadows being illuminated. And, you know, the earth is doing its own precession that's going to finish in 2026, you know, so there's a whole cosmological drama going on. You know, there are all cyclical things going on, and we're all part of that. It's like we're the little bacteria, viruses, and parasites that live on the cells of planet Earth. Yeah. And so we're being, you know, there's a personal journey in this, but there's a collective journey in this. And my feeling is this time that we're in, which has been talked about by the ancient people for many years and been known about, you know, by the people like the Hopi and the Aborigines and whatever, that this is that time. It's a time of great change. And I think most of us can relate with really wanting that change, you know, like really going, yeah, this is so messed up what we've created here, you know, where I have to compromise myself, I have to fit in, you know, I have to survive and I have to struggle and I have to compete with people, and, you know, that kind of world of separation where we are all being told this story, you know, at school or, you know, from our ancestors that we're all separate and we have to survive. And that illusion is being busted. And it's being busted one heart at the time, but it's being busted collectively, you know. So, you know, I don't know what happens next or how it goes, but in the depths of my own soul, I feel very aligned with what's going on. And I don't get, you know, I pay attention to all the different, you know, Bill Gates vaccines, you know, 5G. I let all that into my field because it's there, but I don't get sucked out into it. I let it be there, and I let myself feel my own system's response to that. And then I maintain my center. And that's very transformative, you know, how I respond to other stuff. And I think there's an audio or a guide on that process, which I call reflection technique, you know, where you notice how you feel in relationship to your neighbor or to 5G or to whatever you want to work on. And when you do that, those things and your response and reaction to them is not about them. You're not a victim. It's about you. And when you own your response and your reactivity, which becomes your response, and you bring it to the heart and you integrate, then you're not a victim. Then you're in your power. And then you're in a position where from your heart, from love, you start feeling creative about, well, what is it that you do want? You know, instead of reacting to what we don't want, which actually gives it power, we move into this creative energy in the heart coming out of love, and we start saying, well, what is it that we do want? Yeah. And this is beyond, well, I always say to people, this is beyond the mind because we've never had it before. But the heart knows what it is. And you can feel it sometimes. And even if you just feel it, that's enough. That gives it power, what you do want.
Mm-hmm.
So the practice doesn't end. I mean, I don't know in 5 or 6 years if, you know, all these physiological and biological and earth shifts have finished happening and we come into some sort of stable place and we're all just fully connected and done. You know, that would be nice. Possible. What do you feel about what I've said? Does that resonate or, yeah?
Yeah, I would like to say something. Or
Great, Laura, thanks.
okay. So yeah, it does resonate a lot with me, especially what you said about the 5G and the vaccines and things like that. It comes on really personal because my children are vaccine injured, and I feel too like how do we deal like in a peaceful way with people who wanna force you to do vaccinations, for instance, and like I feel like they're controlling my children, they're controlling me, and they don't see people. I think like Bill Gates see people as a number, not as a person, and it's hard for me to find a way to love or not find anger towards a person like that.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful question and it's a beautiful quest, you know. So the mind wants an answer.
Mm-hmm.
There's only a practice available to you, and that's what I'm suggesting because, you know, it's valid to feel the wound. You know, my children were, I was vaccine damaged too, so I can relate. So it's valuable, you know, probably most of us are, whether we know it or not, but it's valuable to feel the wound that you feel. So that's step one. And then it's valuable to feel the position that's come out of that, which is, you know, like a fear or a victim, you know, like vulnerable and I'm not in control of my life. It's valuable to do that, but not mentally. You know, if you do it mentally, you're basically re-traumatizing yourself. Yeah, because it just spins. I mean, everybody's noticed that. Doesn't matter how often this thought passes through the system, it just keeps going round and round, you know, because it never gets resolved. And it can be resolved in you. You know, love is this incredible undefinable power. It's the power of love. And that's exactly what we're trying to bring in, you know, to the body. So it's not about taking a position of love, you know, what would love do? And I'm going to do that. It's not that, because that's another agenda and that's another position. Yeah. It's really about meeting the vulnerability. You know, it's about directly meeting this experience. And, you know, the thought, you know, like if you're watching the media, you've probably noticed that there's a lot of conflict about what's going on and nobody really knows, you know, and because knowledge or knowing doesn't come from somebody's opinion. And so you conceive something on Bill Gates for something and just assume that he's got all this power and he's doing this and this is how it's going to be. But that's just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily true. And if you believe that thought, you've just given energy to, you've unconscious. This is why it's called unconscious. You're leaking energy to something you don't want, which is helping create what you don't want. So we're in this, you know, heart-centered sovereignty is really a profound transformative possibility where you transform the universe from within yourself. You start to realize that it's all about we. There isn't a me and an other. It's all about we. And so these characters out there, that are reflecting our, you know, that are the dark side, if you will, have something inside me. There's something getting created inside me in relation to them, you know, and that's my business, and that's where the power is, and that's where transformation happens. You know, if we stay in the mind, the only power we have is unconscious creation, which is what's got us into this mess, is that we are all unconsciously creating what's happening right now. In some way. We're complicit in it because we're part of it. And that's because we, you know, tend to have disconnected and given our power to an outside authority. You know, like some of you guys were saying, you know, on a certain date we can go home. Sorry, we can leave home. On a certain date we can stop lockdown. It's like, why is it date dependent? Why isn't it dependent upon, you know, when it's deemed to be safe in relation to, you know, the numbers of people affected with the virus? Or something? Why isn't it event dependent? Why is there a date? You know, for me, that's crazy. That's a masculine that's controlling. That's a masculine force that's controlling. And we've given these people this power. And if you stay in the head with it, it doesn't appear possible. It's not possible from the head, you know, to reclaim that power, because the head is arising out of the vulnerability and the fear. But it is possible, you know, to do your bit, which is to make yourself conscious, which requires you to feel the vulnerability, to feel the position that you have. And none of that is happening right now. You know, it's like this residual fear that lives in our system, the unresolved that goes back in our karma, is kind of operating us right now, and we're projecting it out. So there's no tiger in the room with you, Laura, right now that's trying to bite you. So there's no, in this moment, in this very moment, there's no reason for fear. If you find fear in this moment, there's a thinker that's attached to that fear. And if you reclaim the fear and reclaim the thinker and bring them back into unification, then you arise as the power of love. Yeah. And it's highly transformative. It radiates out of you, and it has a strong influence on your field and the field around you. It's all about energy. And we get sucked into the illusion. So, you know, I get it. You know, I've spent years being sucked in, and occasionally still get sucked off center, you know, but not for long. So the daily practice, the design of that was that at the end of the day, you do a review of the day. You notice the highlights, which is always powerful, because noticing the good things really is highly transformative. The mind only notices the bad things, and it's never done because they're always bad things. So you do that end of the day practice, and you see, well, where did I get derailed today? You know, where did I lose it when I talked to the neighbor? That's the business. It's just this, it's really simple. Live in grace. And, you know, to the mind, it feels like it's not enough. Now, it's not that you're hiding in grace. You can, you know, if you are well resourced, yeah, in your state of consciousness and love, then you can go, wow, I need to put my hand out and help this person, or I can put my hand, you know, or I can go and help create a food forest, or whatever your passion is that is engaged in creation from love, not in creation from reactivity. It's like, wow, you know, well, what is the world I want to create? Well, maybe you don't have an idea that in 5 years it's going to look like this, which is kind of impossible to have a knowing of that. But maybe just in your field, you know, something is happening and it's calling you. And it's like, yeah, there's this little community food forest project, or whatever it is, you know, that your heart sings with. And you find that because you're not leaking energy, yeah, when we're leaking energy, we've got no energy to give. When we're sovereign, we are self-sustaining resource, you know, it's like there's infinite energy in stillness. you know, that science has actually shown that, you know, the space that we think is empty is full. What's it full of? Energy. So when you're in divinity, you're full of energy. It doesn't get derailed. And you can do love in action. And this is what I feel is really going on in a bigger picture. That is what we're, you know, needing to do if we want to, you know, if humanity wants to stay on planet Earth, that would be a good thing for us to be doing. So that was a bit of a ramble, Laura. Did that kind of give you Leonora's view of, you know, your question in regards to this work?
Yeah, it does definitely make sense to see it that way. Yeah, because anger just hurts yourself more, I feel.
Yeah. Well, anger, you know, anger leaking, you know, and making somebody else to blame or shame about it is hurting them and it's hurting you. But anger owned is your life force.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can actually, it's not easy. And, you know, as you strengthen your sovereignty container, it has the capacity to be with more and more stuff and not get derailed. So it can be mine could be with rage. You know, when it first came through, it was like my whole nervous system couldn't be with it. But ultimately through my practice, I could be with that anger. I was just happy to have anger. It was so lost. And so when I got my anger, it felt like fire, you know, like this energy, which is hard to be with. But when you embody anger, it becomes like courage, heart rage, you know, and it gives you this energy. If you contain your anger as you, if you own it fully, it gives you this power, you know, to take steps that you would never take. You know, we all, to some extent, remain invisible and carry on and have this apathy in how we live. It's part of the inheritance of all the trauma that we hold. And so anger can just burn it up. That's the beauty. If you own the anger, it can transform you so profoundly and give you the energy to engage in the world. In fact, I would say without your life force energy, the heart on its own is not the whole equation. It needs to be grounded in the physicality, which is the gut, back in your instincts. You know, when the tiger comes, if the tiger comes, there's no thinker that has to think about what to do with the tiger. Now, maybe the tiger is somebody at the door with a vaccine that's saying, I'm going to vaccinate you. You know, whatever it is, whatever your tiger is, when it actually comes in the present moment, your system will respond. It's the autonomic nervous system. It responds, you know, to protect you, you know, fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah. So the best thing is to get back to that instinctual power that we've become separate from. And if we're separate from our power, we need a protector. And that protector, you know, we can put it on Donald Trump, we can put it on the health department or the doctor, or we can put that protector energy out over there, but that's giving them the power. So you go to the doctor, you know, it's not that you have to do what the doctor says, it's just that really you can use him as a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do what anybody says. You have the power to say, no, thanks. Yeah. So, you know, if we are in the head, we have given, you know, the protector that we project out on Bill Gates, or actually he's not the protector, he's the destroyer. You know, let's say it was, you know, Donald Trump. If we're projecting out that he's our protector, have you noticed that all the protectors don't feel very stable anymore? Like, we don't trust them. And the protector, the inner protector, is your mind. So as you become you don't need an outer protector. And if everybody does that, we can move into this place of being grown up and, you know, all caring for each other and all helping each other share our gifts. And, you know, the world that awaits us is something that we've never experienced yet. So, you know, I can only talk like this to this group because you've sat in the heart with me, and you can probably hear that, or entertain that. And I'm asking you to feel it, like to listen to this in the field of awareness. That's you. Does it resonate? There's something that happens when you hear it. Does doubt come up? What's happening for you?
Eleanor?
Yeah.
You said, or Lenora, you said that the protector is our own mind. So in that situation, the mind is actually a good resource.
Mm-hmm.
When we become our own protector, that's our mind. I think that's what you said. And
Yeah.
I get hung up in these words sometimes, and
Yeah. They don't do it really.
Huh?
Words don't really do it for us.
No, but you were basically saying that the mind is also valuable in these situations, right? It's not just the heart that perceives, but it's the heart and mind, right?
Every cell of your body is a perception, has a ability to perceive, is perceiving consciously or unconsciously. Your big toe can perceive. Can you feel it?
Yeah.
So, you know, the thing is that the dominant perception is looking through a filter, and so it doesn't trust life. And it doesn't trust life because something happened in life, yeah, where I lost connection to safety. So safety only ever comes from true self. When you go into stillness and your heart space, doesn't it feel whole and complete and safe? Yes, usually, yeah. So when I'm disconnected from that, it doesn't feel safe. Why? Because I'm split from myself. You know, I've moved out of oneness into two-ness. And when there's two-ness, the gap between who I think I am, the now false self, the sense of self, the identity, the adapted self, it's adapted to protect you. It's going, wow, that thing that happened to me that time in the dark alley, I ain't going down any dark alleys anymore. So it starts excluding things that it perceives to be dangerous. And even if they're not dangerous, because there's a fear, an unresolved fear inside you, that fear is projected out. It's kind of like your system is looking for what's dangerous. It's a hypervigilance. It's going, maybe that guy's dangerous. Maybe that guy's dangerous. Yeah. It doesn't know danger. It's just projecting it out because it's not feeling and reclaiming the fear, the original disconnect, the original experience. You know, like there is a sense of self or an identity here which masquerades as me. You know, all of us have that. And that identity can become very rigid because it's cumulatively created. So let's say you had a preconscious trauma in the womb or at birth. Birthing is a really profound place for big trauma. Yeah. For both the mother and the baby. And so the soma knows that experience is in the system. And you don't even have a conscious mind at that point. So when you hit sort of 2 years old, or, you know, at some point you start to discern, oh, you know, this is a cup, that's my mom. You know, you already know what's your mom, but you start to put concepts in. You know, you start to have labels and you start to split the world up into the labels. And how you do that, how you develop and who you become is shaped by what happened to you in your birth and what happened in the womb. And was this a wanted pregnancy? Were mum and dad connected when they conceived me? You know, what happened to my ancestors is shaping that. So you have this cumulative stuff, which is based on survival, that shapes how you perceive the world. So it's like we believe what we see, but it ain't true. What we see isn't true. So the quest is the questioning is like, what is really true here? It's like, don't try to understand what I'm saying, but, you know, can you relate to, you know, those fears and those vulnerabilities and how we shut bits of life out to ensure that they don't happen to us again? That's the protector. You know, do we start limiting what we do to stay safe? And we all do this to, you know, do we stay invisible to some extent? Do we stay quiet to, you know, we're not in our power. This is what I want to say collectively. We're not in our power yet. It's been rising for some years. And now we're really being propelled into feeling this outside protector that isn't always got our best interests at heart, because the mind is manipulative. It's trying to get a result. Even Bill Gates, you know, he thinks it's really, really important to depopulate the planet, let's say, because there aren't enough resources. Well, you know, what an ego. He's coming out of lack, yeah? He's not being driven by his heart there, yeah? He's coming out of a position which he got from somewhere. What an incredible amount of suffering to have. And he's taking this egoic position that I'm, you know, the richest man in the world or something, and it's my job to do it. You know, like, okay. It's a lonely job. You know, so he is a wounded soldier. He is a wounded soldier. I'm not saying that we need to like him, but I can see that he's a wounded soldier, and I can also see that he's a soul. And in some way, he's a teacher to all of us. And in some way, you know, the anger that comes out of the fear, the life force that comes back in response to him is exactly what we need. You know, if you let people keep coming past the line that you've drawn, and they keep coming past the line that how close can you let this come before you push back? And the pushing back requires that life force. When we don't need protection, it will disappear. When we're in our power, all that will disappear. You know, if I sit in my mind with this, I'm the same as everybody else. It's like, oh my God, that's, you know, I can't see how that's going to work. But I tend not to sit in my mind with it because I know that my mind is limited. And I think Osho said, you know, Marianne, that the mind is a dangerous master, but a willing slave. So, you know, when we do that journey to the heart and we're walking through the temple and we see these little characters, you know, wounded, or the Knights of the Round Table, you know, they've been out fighting wars for us, or they've been trying to understand, or they've been trying to make changes, and some of them are so scared they're hidden behind the pillars. And, you know, we find all our wounded soldiers. Those are the mind. Those are mind structures. They're not you. They're false yous. And we've invested in them because we don't feel safe. We've invested in all our warriors. Yeah. The one who needs to know, the one who wants to control. All of those characters need to be found. They're inside. They're not outside. They're outside as well, but because we haven't found them inside. Once we find them inside and own them, then we take our power back. And as we transform the pattern, we're part of the fabric of all humanity. We're all birthing, including Bill Gates, out of the present moment, you know, and as we change, it will change him. It cannot not change him because he also is a soul, even though he's forgotten. So, you know, what we're actually truly afraid of is how powerful we are. I know that's been true for me.
So is an example of taking my power back when I notice a fear or an unconscious behavior.
Yeah.
And I don't identify with it or let it sort of take over my
You meet it.
You meet it, yeah.
Just
And
meet
that
it.
that does feel, I mean, that's the thing I'm noticing a little bit here and there, is that I'm more conscious, more aware of these the reactivity that I used to have, and the you know.
Yeah. You know, in some way people do these kinds of workshops because they want to end up happy, but it's not that you don't end up happy, it's just that you end up noticing the contrast between, you know, peace and the light of your soul and the feeling of possibility, and all the other dross that is the day-to-day of life that we're sucked into. So it is necessary, you know, to meet all these wounded characters. It is necessary. And it's not, you know, I want to say as well, it's not your fault. You know, you're not being punished. You didn't do something wrong. In fact, you probably forgot, but you chose to come.
Oh, I got
I
forgot. I did. I forgot.
Yeah, I used to joke. I used to say to people, I signed the Bodhisattva vow and I forgot to read the fine print. And it was my little joke. But we're living in profound times. And also, you know, when I say it's not your fault, but it is your job. It is your responsibility as a soul to clear your fields and to become yourself. And not everybody's willing to take that responsibility. And I think it's because the way isn't very visible. You know, if you're in your ego, you can't see. You know, as I always say to you, your ego is blind. It doesn't know what it doesn't know. It's looking through a filter of survival, you know. And so, you know, when you start doing this work, it all seems impossible. But when you keep sitting in the heart, you're living in possibility. And you can see, like, even in all that's going on, it's like I see the beauty and understand in some deep way, not as a mental thing, that this needs to happen. In fact, I feel like I've been preparing for it for years. Yeah. So, you know, when this situation arose, it's like I got derailed a few times, but then I became stable, and I just go, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that I'm not going to leak my energy, you know, that's my job. And I'm going to sit in, what do I want to create? Yeah. I'm going to sit in that heart space as love and express from there. Yeah. So, you know, in some way, what challenges us as we do this work is that, you know, the ego has to die. You know, the one who's trying to stay safe has to be broken out of the illusion that trying to protect myself and manage the world and all of that is going to keep me safe. That's actually what's got us into this. So, you know, that's the reclamation of power. It's not how do I reclaim my power? It's just that you just keep meeting the moment with love. And eventually the head becomes a slave to the heart. In other words, your cleverness is of value. It's absolutely profoundly valuable, but it's not running your life. It's not running out of feeling unsafe, which is what it's normally doing. It's running out of, what do I want to create, you know, and, you know, what do I put on my shopping list? That's what the head's really good at. Yeah.
I've noticed that I've been healing my body during all this time, because I'm more, when I go inside, I feel parts of my body that really need, I guess, love, you know, they just need healing. And so spending a lot of time healing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel better, actually. I feel stronger.
Right. How are the headaches now?
You know, I haven't had a headache since, I guess it's been about 20 days.
Great.
Yeah, and I figured it out. I listened to that Dr. Berg, and he gave me some advice about my gallbladder.
Yeah.
You know, he talked about it, and it worked.
Right.
It worked. So that's really helpful, because that pain was, you know, the only thing I was dealing with, you know?
Yeah. So, you know, what's very sweet when I listen to you, and when I say listen, I'm listening through my field. Yeah. What I hear is, you know, I didn't have a headache for 20 days. Well, all the work that you've been doing healing, it doesn't mean that Dr. Berg healed you. It's just that your alignment, your intention, your work put you in a field of resonance that created a resonance to Dr. Berg, and he popped into your awareness in some way, and you resonated and you heard what you needed to hear from him. So we're all helping each other. Yeah. But if your field of awareness is only freaked out, you're not going to hear any of that. You're not going to realize that helping yourself is going to change the world. You're going to just stay in separation and reactivity to the world. So it's by, you know, it's really hard to go, you know, what actually changed your headache was never one thing. It's never one thing, you know, like it's not a prescription. You do this and you get this result. It is not that. It's a collective alignment with being yourself has such power. You know, you might judge that you're doing it wrong all the time, but just that every morning having that alignment, you know, is like calling in from the power of the soul what you need to be yourself. You magnetize it towards you because you're aligning with it. That's your power. That's what's, and you know, 3 weeks ago, you have no idea how to heal your headache. Mm-mm. You know, you can read, you can go to doctors, you've probably done all that already, and you might take pills and you might do this and you still get your headache.
It's been like 9-10 years.
Yeah, I know. I healed neuralgia, and you know, I cannot write a book about how I healed neuralgia, you know, because my version of neuralgia is different to everybody else's version. The karma that I was sitting in, neuralgia, for those that don't know, is like a severe migraine in the nervous system. So how do you heal it? You heal it by staying in your alignment, not getting derailed, asking for what you want, but being able to listen and noticing what you're creating and being able to meet all your little pieces, you know, that are in some sort of intensity because of what happened to you as a child or wherever it happened. So, you know, it's an unfolding, and this is where the magic starts to happen. It's like, to some extent, we don't need to know how I healed my neuralgia or how you healed your headache, but we do know that you healed, and that the healing possibility comes from being yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, the sickness or the headache or the disease or whatever it is you're holding in your system is because you're not yourself. You're leaking energy, you're buying a belief that's not serving you, you know. I mean, we all get inspired by stories where, you know, somebody gets in an accident and they get stuck in a wheelchair, and it's kind of like the best thing that ever happened to them, because they write books and they start really living, because they start appreciating what they can do rather than being stuck in the wheelchair. Whereas other people might go into a deep depression and be stuck in the wheelchair. What's the difference? It's not about the wheelchair. It's not about what's, you know, it's not about buying the story that, yeah, but I'm different and I'm really messed up. I had that story for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm unhealable, you know, like what I went through is like, nah, it's not possible. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah. Who's that?
It's Allah. So like, you know, I had this pain, like, you know, here in my neck, and you know, when I was in Bali, like, you know, I lost it, you know, we had a session as well, and, you know, I kind of like was just fine. But then when I came back here, and so I got it back again because I'm getting back in, like, you know, work and stress. And, you know, now with all this what's going on, like, you know, my boss, he's also my man. So it makes it more complicated.
I bet.
Yeah. So, you know, he is so like stressed out. And so he's very angry, very aggressive right now. Like, you know, he's kind of like looking at this time also that he has to change everything and, you know, change the way he manages business. And he's like blaming everyone for not doing the work. So he just like blaming everyone and says like, you know, I work, you know, just has that very intense energy, like negative energy. And, you know, I'm talking to him and I feel like it's choking me. And I start like losing myself. I become angry as well. And, you know, yelling, like, you know, I
Right.
completely lose myself.
Right.
Then I kind of like realize now what triggers, you know, I know that if he blames me for not doing the job when I actually doing, I know it's like, that's what actually triggers. And, you know, I feel like being accused of something that, you know, I haven't done.
So how do you feel when he's angry? What happens to you? What's your response when he's doing his drama? So he's very under-resourced. That's all I'm going to say about him. But what's interesting is what, you know, having this kind of, what is he violent, or he's just angry and loud and blaming?
He's just angry, and, you know, he's like all obsessed by work right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
into that because, you know, now he's like, oh, we're all locked down, there is nothing else to do, it's only work. And
how do you feel?
but, you know, I feel, you know, it's like, well, I have a, you know, child, I have stuff to do, I have parents, like, you know, but he's not here, he's in Arizona, so we're in different states. But, you know, we talk a lot and, you know, still work every day together. And so I kind of feel, I don't feel close, you know, it's kind of like he's building the wall, you know, it's like, don't feel
any connection. Okay. So, you know, there's lots of pieces in there. So what's very valuable is to do this reclaiming your power process with him for you. Mm-hmm. Because what's important, even though you talk about how he is, that's interesting. But what's really important is how are you? That's your business.
Yeah.
And when somebody is like that, and particularly if it's somebody you're in relationship with, we can go into that sort of mother take care of kind of role. Mm-hmm. But as the powerful woman or the feminine rising or whatever, you know, the whatever it is that needs the energy that you need to own, is that how that might express is just to reflect back to him your truth. Mm-hmm. I hear you, darling, but I feel really cut off when you're in that place, or I don't feel like I can connect with you. I can't connect with myself when you're like that. It's like, what is, you know, it's not that you have to say what I just said, of course, but you need to be in touch fully mm-hmm. with what's happening to you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you're in relationship, the nature of relationship is that it behooves you to express what's happening to you rather than to go into protection. Oh, he's overloaded, I can't tell him anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, the feminine is actually wanting to tell the masculine to rise. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he may or may not have the capacity to do that, but if we feel, well, he's in Arizona, so, you know, the safety issue might not be as big, but in some way it is, because I'm in relationship with this guy and he's also my boss. That's big. That's like the two main survival kind of things, you know?
It's like I depend on him because, you know, he's my boss.
Yeah. And so the thing on the neck isn't finished with you. It's your teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's the protector. It's an identity that you become when that drama is happening. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it can take moments or years mm-hmm. to resolve that identity, because the roots of that identity, like I'm saying, go into the pre-conscious past. Mm-hmm. But the ultimate root of all identity, everybody's identity, no matter who, is that you left the absolute. So the resolution of it is, when I say the absolute, I mean stillness. Yeah, stillness is the doorway to the absolute. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like when the identity meets God. Mm-hmm. So if you're feeling this thing on the neck and you can become present to it, you will probably feel maybe something in the gut, you know, like energetic disturbance or in your heart, okay? So it's, you know, there's a relationship between the thing on your neck and the feeling in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Trinity, which is the work that I'm talking about, is that the thing on the face is the masculine force, you know, it's the protector, the controller, the knower. Yeah, it's the matrix.
Yeah.
And the thing in the heart is the wound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the feminine. That's in the, you know, the feelings, the emotions that haven't been felt, that haven't been honored. So there's a relationship between them. It's like you're re-traumatizing yourself unconsciously. What makes it conscious is bringing it to God. Mm-hmm. So I like the word God. I know some people have had bad Christian experiences or whatever that don't like the word, you know, but for me, the higher power, you know. So what is that higher power is the absolute, and the absolute is available through stillness. So one thing you can do is introduce stillness. This is what I was talking about when Sharon asked about the top down and bottom up approach. Mm-hmm. The bottom up approach is like, there's all this stuff going on. I've seen it, I felt it, I'm in my temple, it's all sitting here. Just being with it changes it. Just me being with it changes it, because it's compassion toward myself. But bringing God into the mix, and God is always here, unnoticed. It's the only reliable thing that doesn't change. The fundamental, unchanging reality is divinity. So when you bring stillness in, yeah, many things happen. You know, the heart becomes soothed, this thing shrinks, yeah. And ultimately, as you keep practicing that, you become embodied as that. Like, you start moving out of the false self that needs to protect itself to the true self that is just divinity. And the fear of death is what you have to conquer. Yeah, because this one is like, this one says in everybody's identity has like this fundamental piece that goes, you know, I'll die if I go there. In other words, if I stop protecting, I'll die. So we're very attached to these identities for survival. But the irony is that they're keeping us separate from ourselves. And eternal life is divinity. So, you know, some spiritual teachers talk about dying before you die. That's what we're talking about. And dying and life is the same place. It's not like I die, I lose my body and I go to heaven. But life and death are happening here right now. In every moment, parts of you are dying and new stem cells are being born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like meditated and actually, like, you know, I lost it. So it's like, probably I should practice more.
Yeah, you have to keep practicing. There is no way to understand what I'm saying and just, you know, from understanding have it. It's not possible. That in itself is just another separate identity that has some wisdom. It's not true wisdom, but it has information. Yeah. It's not about understanding. It's about direct experience. As you know, when you sat here or when you were in Bali, it shifted because you took a holiday from it as well. You left it. You left your job. You left your child. You left, you know, the situation at home, and you were free of it. You know, you had this contrast where I'm not in that role that I play at home. And that was beautiful. This is why holidays and travel are beautiful, because we can step outside of our day-to-day reality and have a direct experience of what it's like to be me without all of that.
Yeah, especially when you go on your own. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry?
So especially when you go on your own, so then you can.
Yeah, when you go on your own, it's even more so, because you're not maintaining any relational dynamics. And so it is can be easier to clear things. But then when you go home, you can just put that same suit back on. And so you really need the daily practice and the commitment. You know, if you're not aligned to doing the work, you know, then you just stay where you are. Just how it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Good conversation, guys. Good questions. And gives me some insights into your journeys. Okay, so it's 9:20. Does anybody have I'm feeling, you know, what I want to share as well is that, you know, it's been absolutely wonderful being in this group with this set of people, and, you know, discovering how to be in the not knowing and still give you guys this kind of support, you know, like making videos in the moment and putting them out there for you. And, you know, what interests me always is this quest of, you know, we need to have community. You know, it can be virtual communities, or we need support, you know. So I want you to sit with that and feel in your world, who is your support team? You know, who is in alignment with what you're doing, whatever that is, that can be a peer, you know, that can help support your journey. Because it takes only one thought to derail you. So, you know, when we have a group, we get, you know, even if when we get derailed and when we get into fear states, the last thing we want to do is connect to the felt sense. I guess you will notice that, yeah. The last thing we want is to feel all this yuck. And it's that not wanting that's creating the yuck. It's that separate position that's creating it. But I'm wanting to talk about why we need community, or in the Buddhist tradition, the Sangha, you know, why we need people that are in, I don't say like-minded, but because that's a position, but I want to say, you know, that are resonant in the soul to doing, you know, to following the path of the soul, you know, that we need to establish those communities. So, you know, we have a community here, and that community can keep going. There's no law that says that it can't. You know, you guys can hook up with each other, and I'm offering another community which you can participate in. But I just want to say, I'm holding the flag and waving the flag is like, really think about who are your support people? Do you have them? Yeah.
We just talked to Anastasia today.
Right. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, she would, I mean, we've done 2 or 3 years of work together, so she would be good to help us see what we're blind to. That's what community does. It's not hiding from each other. It's like, some people, who is it that you can show your wound to? Who is it that you can, you know, show up in your pajamas with? Who is it that, you know, will allow you to be seen, warts and all, and still love you? That's what I'm talking about. It's like, maybe that community doesn't exist, but we need to cultivate it. Authentic relating. Yeah. So shall we have a little closing meditation? If anybody might have something that pops in you want to share, then please do so. But just wanted to really take a moment to breathe this in. Breathe this in together, alone and together. And just feel yourself settling into your heart space. And as you sit still and steady in your heart, let yourself travel deeper, as if you're falling into the deepest chamber of your own heart. And just keep going. Seep in. Hold still and steady. And arrive in your deepest, truest self, the one self that connects all together. And as you keep seeping in, as you keep visiting this place, your eyes and how you see the world moves to here. That's what heart-centered sovereignty is, that your eyes move out of your head and you see with the eyes of love. It's a practice. And on the way to love, all the characters that have been protecting you and rescuing you and trying to make the world how it should be, all those characters will come up to be met. And what tends to happen is that they derail us, they disconnect us from our heart. But like the Knights of the Round Table, we have to remain at the table in the heart and just invite them to sit here with us. That's what love does. It just includes, allows, accepts. So as you feel this core of you, this center of your soul, I want you to feel forward into the future. Feel this soul pulling you, guiding you in your life, into your new future, into your new world, into what you came to create. Just feel it without needing images or words, but just feel your soul calling you into yourself through time. And if you just kind of feel that energetically as yourself going forward, your bubble getting bigger and expanding forward, that the self that you are in the future is already there calling you to come to what it already knows needs to be. Like the way between here and the future, any future, the soul knows the way. Thank you, guys. Blessings. Blessings on your journey. Always hard to say goodbye. Yeah. So I'm going to keep the group open. There were some questions in there about being able to access some of the videos again. So I'll sit with those and find a way. And in my view, you can have permanent access to all of the stuff in the group. So maybe the group just sits there.
Yeah, that's right.
Until we find a way to kind of coalesce all that information, and I can email it to you, maybe just all the links. Okay. Have a lovely day, or have a lovely sleep. Bye.